This episode is brought to you by Squarespace. If you guys need to create a website, you need to go right now to squarespace.com and get your building on. Get to building a website. Go over to squarespace.com. Want to save you guys 10% off. Just use offer code Gamebreaker7. This episode is also brought to you by Shutterstock. Just go over to shutterstock.com for all your vectors and photos and artwork and all that good stuff. Use promo code Gamebreaker7. Gonna save yourself 30% off. What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 7 of Unicorn Duck Shadow Puppet for July 8th, 2013. You're watching Gamebreaker. I'm Gary Gandy. Coming up on today's show, WildStar is supporting add-ons like nobody else in the business. We're going to talk PvP, combat vehicles, and double jump. And bunny girls aren't even bunnies. All that and more, of course. But first, from Zam.com, Editor-in-Chief, Mr. Scott Hawks. How are you, sir?
I'm well. There
you go. Okay. See, that always happens. That happens a lot. I try and fix it, and then I just cut you off. Sit up straight, sir! Hawk!
I can't. My head's too heavy.
My head's... the first time I've ever heard anybody say that.
It just is. I have a very, very lead-lined cranium.
You do. You have a pretty large head.
I have a big head.
Do you have trouble with hats?
Yes. Lots of trouble with hats.
Yeah.
I was once best man at the wedding with the top hat, and they couldn't find one that fit me. I look like something out like that anime.
You should go work out that head. Get to the gym.
I can't. It just gets bigger.
Slim that head down.
I've tried.
I've tried
forehead lifts. Everything. It just gets bigger. There's no stopping it. It's got its own gravity.
Kettlebell lifts with your head works. All right, Farhan is not with us this week. He had a little bit of a computer issue, so he'll be back next week. No big deal. I'll get that all fixed up. But let's see. First up this week, the latest WildStar Wednesday came out, and it was all about, well, add-ons. Yes, those things that some people love, some people hate. But one thing that is for sure, WildStar are going to embrace them in a big way. So the lead client engineer on WildStar, he had a ton to say about this. First up, he said, UI customization modification is one of the key features that we think is essential to WildStar's success. We are so committed to this philosophy that we are including a fully featured add-on development tool with every installation of WildStar. The UI engine called Apollo and that tool called Houston not only allow you to easily create your own add-ons to extend WildStar's UI, but also give players full access to all of the Carbine authored source code, and even allows players to completely replace our UI with their own. First up, before we get into this, Scott, where do you stand on add-ons? What's your whole thing on add-ons? You love them, you hate them?
I like them. I do. I think that when
half the internet now hates you.
I know. I don't care.
It's okay.
I'm as someone said on my evil version today with a beard, so it means I just don't care. Can hate.
It's very sinister.
It is. No, I do like add-ons. When they're, it's difficult because as soon as you throw out the ability to make add-ons, then people can run wild with them, and in ways that are never completely foreseeable, in ways that are going to probably change the game, and in some ways be detrimental to sort of like the social experience at times, which, as you know, is my main concern in MMOs. I'm crazy that way. So I really like them. I like the usage of them, but they can become unmanageable. And it's a dangerous thing. So I think they're being rather brave in allowing people the amount of access that they're going.
Would I be wrong to say that like most of the people who actually don't like add-ons are the ones who basically, it always comes down to those few things like damage meters and gear checks, and it's the ones that, you know, kind of point the finger at players and be like, hey, you suck.
You're kind of not very good.
You're kind of not very good at this game.
You're a big crap.
We can easily kind of point it out.
Right. This add-on throws up fireworks that says you're crap.
Yes.
like when it's installed. So no, it's not all just that. It's partly that. It's not just that. It can feel like it gets in the way of the game at times. It can almost feel like if everyone else is using add-ons, that
You have to use it.
have
Yeah, you feel
to keep
forced.
up. Yeah, and then
And if
it
you
feels
don't like looking at a
it's
UI
within,
that's just a bunch of meters and things like you're not even looking at the screen, you're just looking at the corners and you're just like, when is that meter down? Done. Meter down, done.
Never mind the corners. I mean, if you see some of the guys,
Yeah,
like, the entire screen is full. You just got like a heal bot or something filling the entire screen full of
you know
bars.
which add-on you know which add-on always kind of like just stuck me the wrong way? And now games are doing it like as default. The GPS ones. The GPS ones just kind of get me. Like, and I know there's nothing to do, like, you know, if I don't have to use it, of course, then this has no effect on gameplay. So it's like, I don't know. I just remember when I first saw the GPS one in WoW, and I was just like, oh man, really? Has it really, really come to that? Like, can I just get autopilot? Is there an autopilot button?
Yeah.
Like, basically just bot the entire game?
Big arrow showing you the way and telling you exactly what's going to be there and what you should look for when you get there and what you should kill to most efficiently farm away what you're going to do when you get there.
Yeah.
And get rid of the fog of war as well, because we don't want fog of war.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to have to discover what's there. You want to be told what's there, be able to see it on your map before you get there, and how to handle it. Yeah.
Remove all the effing mystery whatsoever. Just,
yeah, completely. It's I understand that, but you do go, well, don't use the add-on.
I know, and that's when I know it's such a nitpicky one because it doesn't affect anyone but me if I have it installed. But I gotta admit, I installed it at one point when I was like reliving that character in WoW, and I didn't really feel like going through all that stuff. I was like, I need to do this as quickly as possible, and that was the fastest way to do it. So I did it.
It is.
It doesn't say. I kind of don't love. I mean, some of the newer games that are putting them in there as default at least lets you turn them off, which that's okay. But the little glowy, sparkly trail to your destination, it's kind of lame. It's kind of lame.
Well, not just the sparkling. I mean, in Neverwinter, you have that as default within the game itself, like you Z and turn it on and off. But my favorite one's where it's this huge arrow that just fills the screen. And yes, this is the way. And also, if you want to hit this ratio of XP per hour, this is the direction to go within and the route to take between all of these quests. Like, oh my god. Okay, can I now just have a bot and then do the entire game for me?
Are there any add-ons though that you like feel like that you do install and you're just like, wow, I love having this type of add-on and almost don't want to play a game without this functionality?
As a healer in other games anyway, as a healer, like things like grid and healbot add-ons like that just make healing. Like I hate healing if I'm having to like F1 my way through my group constantly. I like to click heal using the auto cast on frames, so I like to do that. So
I'm watching
those
chat
sorts
room.
of add-ons are like.
I'm watching chat room and somebody saying, I hope they don't go too deep on add-ons. Are you kidding me? Like they're going beyond deep. Like this, they're giving you the tools. I don't know of an MMO that's like kind of giving you like an entire tool
they're
and all
already there.
Yeah, I mean, we're gonna talk about it in a second. Like it's incredible how fast you're gonna be able to create add-ons as well. I don't know. So I guess this makes sense. I mean, a lot of the Carbine people are from Blizzard, right? So a lot of they come from that world. So they've seen, it's not really surprising WildStar is supporting them, but it is, I don't want to say it's surprising, but it is interesting that they're supporting it this heavily. They've always were a pretty big strength for World of Warcraft and in that sense. But yeah.
I mean, it's a huge community of itself, the add-on community. Like the people who are respected in the add-on community, the people who have a name for making great add-ons that people have been using for years that are subscribed to them. And I think it's if you're going to do it, go the whole way, because then you're offering up something to the community, and you're having something that's going to keep people with your game just for the add-ons that they keep building. So
can we get a Gamebreaker add-on?
Sorry?
Can we get a Gamebreaker add-on? Like you could watch UDSP inside the WildStar.
Sure. I'm sure that would be feasible.
No, most of the companies don't allow that stuff. Most of the companies draw the line at like interjecting content inside of their game. We've looked at it.
If it's just a browser, then you can.
We've looked at it. Overlays and things like that, really sketchy. Gets really dicey and sketchy. That's why you haven't seen it. I'd love to see. Maybe they'll be so hardcore they'll open it up to that and people could watch this show inside of WildStar.
People double jumping.
Yes, people double jumping.
blown my mind. Even though it's heavy, it's blown my mind.
Even though add-ons kind of have like this like mixed reaction between players, do you think? I don't think players quit an MMO because of too many add-ons. So there's like, this game is riddled with add-ons, I'm quitting. I'm sure somebody out there will now correct me and comment and tweet me and say, I quit such and such game because there were too many add-ons. And I'm like, oh, damn, yes, but you're that one person, I get it.
People have quit games for such varied and ridiculous reasons that I'm sure there are people who've quit for add-ons. I mean, if you feel that you can't play the game, there are people who just, when you say for an add-on, like my wife, I have to install her add-ons for her because she simply, it drives her up the loop, over the wall and up the wall and anything I can't think. But she doesn't like doing add-ons, so I had to install them for her. She finds them annoying to install, but likes to use them. So for people who get themselves to the point where they feel like their game's slowing down because they've got so many add-ons and they're using so much memory due to them and feel that they can't compete.
I agree with that.
Then that becomes the real issue. People who are on like low-end machines who need like 30 add-ons to function, then the game becomes a real problem for them because it just lags out.
Yeah, I hate I hate add-on management. I know there's tools to make it easier in this day and age, but
there are add-ons to do that.
Yeah, there are add-ons to do that. I get it, which do work quite well. But I remember back in the day when you had like I kind of did hate management. I mean, I'm not an expert, but I don't think fully featured add-on development tools for everyone are the norm in the MMO space. I don't know if we've ever seen this. It really sounds like, and we haven't seen the tools yet, but it sounds like they're going above and beyond what we've ever seen anyone do.
You're really going to be able to go into the game, look at what's available, I think, and like what you've got running at the time, and really be kind of, a la carte about your choices of what you're going to use. So hopefully it's going to be a very strong and really robust system.
Here's another quote that's really interesting. It said, what I've been telling anyone who will listen for the last 7 years is that this idea of democratizing, that word sounds the word's much easier to write than say. It's true.
Said it, right?
It is. I did. I know, but it wasn't easy. The ability to modify the game, coupled with an active community of both modders and users, brings huge value to the entire game experience. As add-on developers upload their add-ons to the community, we will see all sorts of wild and crazy and brilliant ideas. Zany. Some of which will be awful, and eventually the best of those ideas will rise to the top and may even become integrated with the base UI. So, difficult words aside, he is right. I mean, like I said, I don't think we've seen the MMO. I don't think we're ready for what we're actually going to get from WildStar as the modding community goes. Like, I think it's going to be like off the charts. But if you're looking at other games that even aren't MMOs, of course, the one we'll always point to is Elder Scrolls, Skyrim, right? I mean, like, just huge community that kept people playing that game forever. I don't necessarily see it being used the same way in WildStar, but at the same time, I don't know. It's really, I think there's a lot of value in doing certain aspects of almost anything that you do to crowdsourcing. But it's got to be, and this I think is the one thing that almost all game companies realize, like, they can still control it, right? They still have control over their API and what they're allowing you to access and what they're not. Yep. So they still have some level of control. But really, we talked about this on Twimo. There's always that list of like shit you want in an MMO that like is on, it's on a list somewhere on a whiteboard in somebody's office going like, wow, we'd love to get to that. And gamers are like, man, I wish I had that. But they've got a million
things to get past first, yeah.
Right. And then sometimes you don't see those things, right? So I think this is great that you put it back in the hands of the players. Players can take a couple hours, maybe a couple weeks, whatever you got to do. And you're going to see like really cool stuff pop up. And just probably within hours, you're going to see stuff pop up.
They already popped up within hours,
I know.
Of course. But when talking, what I liked about that statement was, people's add-ons becoming part of their core like raft of add-ons, rather than people making great add-ons and then the game designers going, that's a good idea, let's just nick all the ideas out of that and make our own and shove it in the game as ourselves and kind of make that go away a bit.
Well, they're admitting they're going to do that
in the past,
but they're going to do that. I mean, his quote right here, he says, the best of those ideas will rise to the top and may even become integrated with the base UI. So
Sure, but to me, doing it that way sort of is an acknowledgement of the person who made that becoming part of the UI, rather than what's happened before with certain companies is somebody will make a really good idea and then they'll just they'll make their own version of it, often not quite as good as the original version, and then try and lead people into using that one instead, which I've always found confusing. So if they're going to bring in that integrate it into their UI as it is, I think that makes a lot more sense.
So we're talking about, like, when they released the tools, they didn't even have any documentation or anything, but they put them out there, and apparently within 5 hours of the first beta test, a user called Packet Dancer had already created a friends list, which the game was lacking at the time, which we know is going to be in the game, right? That's, not a big deal. We know that's going to be in the game, but within 5 hours, Packet Dancer already created the friends list. I think it's an extreme example, but of course, it's not going to, like, the friends list isn't going to matter. But the level of dedication is going to be, I think, incredible.
And what that just says about the way that to me, it speaks volumes about what they're aiming for with their player base. It's about retention. It's about giving something for people to keep coming back to over a long-term period. And I think the add-ons for both the users and the designers fits into that philosophy just spot on.
Have they said anything about, like, how people are going to find the good ones? Like, is it going to be a section of the website? Is it going to be part of the UI? Like, is it going to be a voting system? Like, I almost imagine it to be somewhat like the Neverwinter, like maybe Foundry or something, where there's something built in and you can actually, the cream will rise to the top sort of thing.
Yeah, I think you're going to see a mixture, and that's exactly it. I think you're going to be able to find the add-ons from within the game itself, so you're not going to have to go searching around for them. But probably the ones that you find within the game itself will be listed in order of popularity, and either popularity from downloads or votes or something along those lines.
Carbine actually invited Packet Dancer down to the offices for a few days, which is really nice community outreach. There's another group that don't like add-ons, though, sometimes. Sometimes it's the developers themselves. They don't necessarily always like everything. How do you think they're going to handle that, though? Because sometimes they want complete control over their game, which is understandable. And again, Carbine seems to be somewhat tossing that out the window. But, I mean, like I said, they have control over some of the data, but they still probably don't have a very good grasp on everything that players could possibly come up with, right?
You never have a...
No.
Developers off the bat will say, as soon as they start pouring things in, time to penis, we've talked about this before, as soon as they start pouring tools in the hands for players, that they will start coming up with things that they never thought of. And that's both exciting and absolutely terrifying at the same time if you're a developer. But what it does, the positive sides are, as you said, it basically, like the Friends system, for instance, that filled the gap that was needed at that time, and also maybe threw up some ideas about directions they could go with their own model for doing that. You're crowdsourcing development, and what you're doing is allowing a lot of people to have their input and iteration on how the game's played by the players, and that's a great thing as long as you have a good response team to going into individual add-ons that maybe are breaking the game a bit and saying, okay, we can't have this, and these are the reasons why, and we need to explain to you what you need to do to make this a good add-on in the future. As long as they have that kind of process, then it should be fine. But
I wonder if they're going to go through a vetting process. I wonder if they're actually going to go through any sort of, but it'll just be live. And I'm watching chat room, and somebody was like, "Oh my god, they could kind of, they could also have sort of the add-on updater." I think that's almost a given. Like they almost have to, give the middle finger to some of those other sites out there that kind of control add-ons. Yeah, those sites. And they have to control the whole thing, right? I mean, they've got to run the entire show. I don't know how they couldn't. I mean, if I don't know. Yeah. I think if they're giving you the API, they're giving you the tool set. You create a new updated version of that add-on. I would imagine that you're going to upload it to something, and their whole system, I would imagine, is going to keep the add-ons up to date for you. I can't imagine them relying on any kind of third party with this initiative. If
it's centrally housed and integrated within the game itself in the way that it's updated, then yes, that's exactly what will happen. But I mean, we haven't had. I'm not sure we've had absolute confirmation of that yet.
No, we haven't. I'm just guessing.
Yeah,
I'm just saying it seems like their whole push and sort of attitude towards it would make most sense if they at least had all of that stuff built in.
It would. I can see them doing that, but it would also be quite a large undertaking to do that. And the problem is if you have like a vetting procedure, like if they say, okay, we're going to house this, you have to submit it, then we get to look at it, analyze it, see if it works, see what it doesn't break, and so on. That could really slow down that sort of add-on development. So I'm not sure. It's a big decision to make. Do you go down to having absolute control on the pipeline of new add-ons, so you can control it before it hits the game, and to make sure that it's not going to do anything breaking? If you do that, you can either have to have a phenomenally large team that will probably be a bit top-heavy for that kind of development cycle, or you're going to have to free it up somewhat so it's allowed to hit the game before you respond to it. And usually, I would think they're going to have to allow it to hit the game first, because if not, you can have people like you can have a team of beta testers for add-ons, and that's going to be a hell of a lot of hours of work put into that.
Seems like a good reason to get one of our writers get an interview with WildStar. Get on it. Let's do it. Ask some questions. Let's find out. See if they'll talk about it. All right.
Well, maybe we'll wait for something out after this Wednesday. There's a community gathering.
Maybe, possibly, just maybe so.
In a blighty this week. So.
All right, I want to talk about some P versus P, but first I want to tell you guys about Squarespace. I love the Squarespace. If you guys have a website or don't have a website, either or, doesn't matter. You need to check out Squarespace, because if maybe, you know what? Maybe you need to make a WildStar website. Or maybe for your guild, or maybe just for you and your YouTube videos. Gotta check out the Squarespace. I want to save you guys 10% off. All you got to do is use offer code Gamebreaker7, and I'm going to save you guys 10% off. If you guys have not checked out Squarespace yet, you really do, because it makes creating an amazing looking, modern, cool, slick website so easy. You start with one of these templates, and the templates are just phenomenal. They're just super, super modern, cool looking. There's different templates for different types of sites. So you can come over here and say, hey, I've got a business, and you can look at those, or a portfolio. I mean, you're not, if you have a store, maybe you want to sell stuff and you need a shopping cart, boom, all built in. Just pick one of the store templates that they have, and all the shopping cart software is all kind of built in and integrated already. All of them are mobile ready as well, which is a huge plus. We started creating one of our sites with Squarespace. We're still working on it, and I gotta say, it's just the level of I want to use the word complexity, because they make complex tasks for a website extremely easy. So all of that, yes. Well, all that crazy is, like, I don't know HTML. Like, I don't know how to code at anything. Like, I can't even change. I'm
very rough with it as well. Yeah.
Like, I have to ask how to change. Like, I have to ask how to change font size. Literally, like, how do I HTML for fonts? I don't really know the code. They've turned all that stuff into a WYSIWYG editor, so it's like literally a slide or a number. You just change the font. Like the back end, way that you build out the site is great, and it doesn't just go beyond simple things like that. It's like all the padding, the margins, the way this moves, the sliding. Like they've really just, it's so robust. It's pretty amazing. The new engine is awesome. And for those of you out there who maybe do know HTML and really know how to get under the hood and want to do some really custom work, I really urge you to check out the new Squarespace, because the engine, they've built in all these hooks where people who can code can get in there and add in their own code and inject stuff and just do really super cool stuff, be above and beyond what I could do, or somebody just trying out Squarespace. It's really, really, really awesome. You can get something up and running and just looks great in just a couple hours. Go over to squarespace.com, sign up, make it a new account, and I want to save you guys 10% off. So just on checkout, all you got to do is use offer code Gamebreaker7, the number 7 there. Use that as your offer code. I'm going to save you guys 10% off. So check it out. Get to making your WildStar fan site or today. All right, so WildStarOnline.de. Spoke with senior PvP systems designer Jen Gordy. It's definitely worth checking out this interview, but there's a lot of good information in there. We, of course, pulled out a few of the highlights to talk about. So first up, So she said, Kevin and I both spent some time selecting and refining the game types that we felt would make the best WildStar battlegrounds for our launch. We wanted to showcase WildStar's unique combat and mobility, provide a familiar but slightly different ground for current MMO players for some maps, and do unique concepts of objective play for others. I think we've got a good offering, and we can't wait to show you. I don't know if we've thought of this before, but the inclusion of double jump alone in Battlegrounds, that's huge, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Have we talked about that?
I don't know if we have. The guys, the people, the folks have talked about doing with PvP. You can use like double jump to maybe clear walls to chase them. It's one of the videos to talk about. I can't get over it. I need to double jump to get over the lower third. It's ridiculous.
It's too big. I lost all the graphics for the show and had to make that really fast, and it made it a little bit larger than it was supposed to. But there you go. That works.
Touch.
That works.
There you go. Talking about the way that they're putting walls in and implementing them so you can actually use your double jump if you time it right to clear walls to chase down opponents to make sure that you get line of sight. So barriers that in other battlegrounds and arenas might normally be your insta way out with double jump, that they're not that at all. And now if you can time it right and you're skilled enough and you can use your movement properly, you can chase them down quick. So,
evade, chase. It's going to change some stuff. It's going to be really interesting. And I guess thinking about the design of the map, they could do tons of stuff with just cliffs, ledges, platforms, bridges.
They can really make sort of vertical build to these arenas that maybe you can't really do in some of them.
I guess you think we'll see more varied objects, maybe possibly within Battlegrounds as well. Like we saw in like SWTOR, they had the fire pits and things like that. I wonder if we'll see like. Yeah, I mean, imagine that kind of sort of concept with double jump. It kind of changes stuff. Platforms that maybe like elevate you to higher levels of different things, and
you can turn it into basically a bit of a platformer style gameplay within it. So you've got to hit your double jump perfectly to clear that acid pit, or go from one ledge to the other ledge and moving. You could do all sorts of stuff with it. And from the environment itself and all the things they're offering it, those sort of things are already in the game. So it's feasible you're going to see them in things like arenas and battlegrounds because they're already there in the game. It's switching them into just different environments.
I'm not really sure why. I mean, Guild Wars 2 took it's kind of interesting decision of having all their maps just have the sort of the same primary objective. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I hope WildStar really, obviously it's totally two different teams, but I really hope we see WildStar sort of be a bit more diverse. I don't know. Or do you like the Guild Wars 2 approach?
I'm hoping for more diversity in it. I like to feel. I mean, I understand the Guild Wars 2 approach because the reason they did it, what the arena team said was, I remember talking about this on another show. The arena team said that basically it meant that everybody could get in the game quick. It didn't matter what map you were on. You had a decent idea of what you were supposed to be doing, and then they could throw in a few variables to freshen things up. But everybody was on a pretty same level playing field, even if they'd only just started playing. And I can understand that, but personally, I like a bit more variety. I like to see different maps come up. There are downsides because what it means is that people then, there's certain maps that people just can't stand and never want to queue for. And then you have people all trying to go for one. So it does create problems. So variety I really like, but it's a tough job making sure you've got maps where people aren't just, I want that kind of map and I'm just going to keep on queuing for that map. Then you end up with a lot of design errors and a lot of people queuing for ages because nobody else wants to queue for that map.
I can't wait to see what the PvP's in store. Next up, said combat vehicles, if the gameplay type suits them, will likely come in post-launch maps. As far as questing, all of our PvP maps, including war plots, use WildStar's public event system to direct player activity. There may be more than one event active, depending on what's occurring in the map, and when players complete the event, they'll get a reward for participation. So first up, combat vehicles. What? I mean, we've seen them. I mean, Where do you stand on those? I mean, usually
they're usually not very good, to be honest.
Yeah.
But usually they're pretty like.
Do you think it takes away from PvP usually, like actually the aspect of it?
Personally, for me, yes, quite often. There are some that are fun. You know, Strand of the Ancients, things like that. Sometimes that works, but when you make them key objectives to what you're doing, so then there's a lot of PvP going on as well, but sometimes the vehicle itself becomes the focus of the PvP going on around them. So you're basically doing an escort quest for your vehicle to get to a point to do something. It can be quite fun, but personally, sometimes it just slows the game down a bit.
Yeah.
And I just, for my style of play for PvP, it's not my favorite. But there are people who enjoy it. So
maybe use them as transport vehicles. That'd be pretty awesome.
That'd be cool.
You just transport. Not really PvP, but it's more like just a transport vehicle where like everybody out, and you just like you're really vulnerable or something.
We're going Planet Side 2 here, aren't we? Yeah.
A little bit. Hey.
Galaxy drop in, yeah, that'd be good.
Now on the other part of this quote, am I reading this right? Dynamic events in our battlegrounds. Am I reading this correct?
No. It seems to be, doesn't it? It yeah.
Sort of sounds like that.
Directing players towards activity.
WildStar's public event system to direct player activity. There may be more than one event active, depending on what's occurring in the map.
It's going to be mental. There's going to be so much
I mean, if you
going
really
on.
think about it, why haven't we seen that before, right? I guess the one thing you have to really worry about is balance. If the dynamic events affect both sides equally in some way, shape, or form, where one doesn't benefit.
I mean, I've seen it in things like MOBAs. Infinite Crisis in theirs, they've got like these cataclysms. I think that might be what they're called. Basically, things go off and like meteorites hit as you're in the middle of the game, and if you're caught in it, it doesn't matter what side you're on, you're going to get blown up. So, and they can happen at different points, and so it's not like you can't build as long as you build it around the idea of that going on, and you don't just throw it in, let's see what happens. As long as it's balanced around it, there's no reason why you can't do it.
Fandros in the chat room says, that sounds sex. I agree. It kind of does. I wonder if they'd be secondary. You think they would be secondary objectives? Maybe they'll be secondary objectives. Like they'd be kind of optional things for perks or buffs or something like that. Yeah. That just like,
strategic elements.
Let's go take Dragon.
Exactly. So strategic elements pop up. You got to decide, right, do we want to go for that because it'll give us that advantage, but it might be taking us away from a different objective. And so you're making tactical choices. And in any PvP game, the more interesting choices you have and what you're doing at each moment, the better.
As I think the risk though, to see how it's implemented until we see it implemented. I guess one risk could be that random PvE elements in a battleground. Like I said, if it could become too much of a luck factor, or if it feels like one side is definitely like is being slighted to some extent. But I don't know. It's gonna be really interesting. It sounds well like sex. All right. Economy designer over at Carbine, Gortok, made some words on WildStar and the WildStar Central forums. Here's what he had to say over there. He said, we don't want to force players to content they aren't interested in. If we interlace the best loot in both PvP and PvE, then that is what we will effectively be doing. This solution is great for the 0.3%. He made up that number. I was really hoping that number was completely accurate. Like, I really wish that number was just like, we did all this analysis and math, and it's 0.3. They made it up. That want to be hardcore raiders and hardcore PvPers. But frankly, it will just make the experience worse for everyone because you are going to have people who don't want to raiding and people who don't want to PvP doing PvP. You confused? You got that? You look.
I think I've got it. Okay.
All right. So they're all about the 1%, but they couldn't care less about the 0.3%. I see how it is now. So hopefully we're all in that 0.7%. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah. I'm off. So although I have been part of that 0.3% before, but I did move on to a different lifestyle.
Good for you. You're set, bro.
Okay, cool.
It makes sense though, right? Because there's no way hardcore raiders want to grind PvP and vice versa. We see this all the time in other games when they feel strong arm because it's like gear based, things like that. And like, I feel I have to do this because it's best in slot and that sort of thing. It just creates a nightmare of people just being angry about it. Some other games, like that's their design and they kind of want you to play those different aspects of the game. They're just like, hey, that's what we're doing.
There have been times, like when I played World of Warcraft, there was a point where there was some of the PvP weapons that were basically better than what I could get at that time in raiding. So I went out and ground out a load of PvP to get that in the meantime. And this is where the problem is you might be able to get a better piece. Like if you're a raider, you might be able to get a better piece from raiding than you can from PvP. But if you can't get it right now, you still might feel inclined to PvP. I think it's a 10%. Basically, what they said is there's a 10% difference in the efficiency between what you're using your gear for. So if you got PvE gear, it's going to be like 10% less damage than when you're using PvP,
right.
And vice versa. Now the thing is if you're just not getting any luck on your drops, say when you're raiding, the problem is if raid leaders turn around and say, yeah, well, if that's within a certain percentage compared to what you have now, we might want you to go out and actually PvP to get that piece until you get the raid piece.
Sure.
So it's down to what the difference is between the previous tier and the PvP piece. So, but it doesn't
sound. I mean, is that 10% number actually set in stone? Because it doesn't sound like the gap is going to be too massive if you jump into like PvP with raid gear. So it sounds like if you want to be the best, yes, you're going to have to do that stuff. But if you're okay and you're sort of in that group of just having fun and stuff like that, and you jump into some PvP with some raid gear, it doesn't sound like you're going to be at that much of a disadvantage.
It's going to be usable. Like, yeah. It's not going to be safe. You're going to go in and you're going to be ripped to pieces if you've got some PvP gear.
Do you think it's the best decision they could do though? Because this is like one of those things that like you almost can never come up with like a perfect. Like it can't cater to everyone on this subject. No. Like there's no way you can make this system work perfectly.
People get angry if they feel they have to put some PvE in their PvP and vice versa. Sometimes they do. The issue is it comes down to if you'd like to do a bit of PvP and you can maybe use a bit of that gear to help you along in the meantime, in like your raiding development, I don't think that's a huge problem. The problem comes down to it's the social sort of pressing that goes on when you have guilds saying, right, you haven't got this piece, so you need something in the meantime while you're waiting to get it, so go PvP all week before the raid. That's when problems happen, and
is that?
You have to keep an eye on it. Is that the game's fault, or is that the person?
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, I don't really find that the game's fault. Like, if you're not that type of player, then maybe you're running with the wrong guild. Like, that's to me, like you're playing with the wrong group. Then, like, that's it.
Absolutely.
Because I don't play with people like that because I suck and I just gotta just find crap gear and I just play with whatever. And if you're gonna tell me like you can't run with us, like no man, I'm having fun. Like I'm here to have fun. Let's go. I'll wipe. I'll make a joke, and we'll all keep doing it. And we'll have a laugh, and we'll keep going.
And that's what should happen more often. But what often happens is if people aren't having a bad experience, they don't look at what they're doing, and B, what the group they're in is doing. They instead say, well, I'm not having a great time. I don't like this. That means the game's wrong.
Yeah.
And so with MMOs, there's such flexibility in what you can do. Is you should, if it's available there for you to go ahead, as long as you can do that content in some way, as long as it's available to you in the way that you want to progress, I don't see a problem with it. If it's not there unless you PvP, if you can't go raiding unless you PvP, yeah, that's a problem. But that's not what they're looking at. They're looking at giving you some options to maybe switch to do. If you like to play both, then you can switch in some gear here and there, and it's going to be usable but not great. So if you want to be the best of the best, PvP gear isn't going to be what you want unless it's within the parameter of the difference between the current tier and the previous tier, which it'd be doubtful.
And if you want to be the best of the best, you want to roll with those guilds that are doing that type of content and like, putting those restrictions on you, well then you should just suck it up and enjoy that. Like, that's the right guild for you, and that's what you have to do. Plain and simple. Like, just the way it is.
And if you're covered in raid gear and you go into PvP, you might be able to actually do well against the majority of people, but not the top end because there's a 10% gap in your output.
Yeah, that's
okay.
All right, I got another interview here I want to go over. First, I want to tell you guys about a great deal we got going on with Shutterstock. If you guys not checked out Shutterstock, they've got tons of great photos, illustrations, vector artwork, video footage, all kinds of stuff to help you take your creative projects to the next level. We just started a brand new YouTube page, and I actually see during this show that, episode 1 of part 1 of another game just went up. So we started a new YouTube page called Super Mega Awesome Time because all the good names are taken. That's our tagline.
Spit take, sorry.
And for Super Mega Awesome Time, like, we need some good artwork, and we're like, it's Mike Shafton and myself doing some gameplay videos, and we needed some cool artwork, and we're like, wait, what are we gonna do? We need some artwork. We need to make this look like a cool YouTube page. Everybody's got a cool YouTube page. How are we gonna have a cool YouTube page? Huh? Shutterstock. That's how we do it. Bam! Go over to Shutterstock. Start looking for vector artwork of characters. Oh, what is this? That is my computer spinning and waiting and waiting and waiting. But as we are waiting, you can see right here that, we found some artwork on the Shutterstock. That's what we did. We found this, and we found these 6 little guys. It was part of one piece of artwork, all in Adobe Illustrator format, so we could resize them and shrink them and blow them up, and they'll never lose any sort of quality like that. And that's what we went with for Super Mega Awesome Time. And that's where we find almost all of our artwork on Gamebreaker. Pretty much almost everything. All of our little icons, our vector artwork. Use it for a ton of vector artwork. Lower thirds, things like that for videos. Shaftnet now lives on Shutterstock. That's his job. It's open on a tab 24/7 because all he's doing is making videos.
Couldn't find a figure with a yellow dress on that.
No.
That's a shame.
No. Come on. Check it out. I want to save you guys 30% off on your Shutterstock account. All you got to do is go over to shutterstock.com, make an account, and use the promo code Gamebreaker7. Got to use that code. Make sure it's Gamebreaker with the number 7, and you're going to get 30% off on your account. I have no idea how long this is going to last, so you definitely want to take advantage of it. Go over. Maybe you got a YouTube page. Maybe you got a blog. Oh, maybe the Squarespace. Maybe make a website. You need some artwork. That's where you go. They work hand in hand. There you go. Go over to Shutterstock. Because there's no excuses for bad looking YouTube pages or websites in 2013 when you've got access to stuff like this. There really isn't. There really isn't. Like, this looks awesome. This looks great. How long did it take you, Shaftnet? Like 20 minutes? Smat, the header on Smat. It's like 20 minutes. It was like a 20-minute job because just good artwork trumps all. So go check it out. DustyCartridge.com spoke with WildStar's creative lead, Matt McCarsky. There's only one thing I really want to talk about from this interview. Scott's laughing already. So I think most of the chat room people watching this show already know. You know the bunny girl race? You know, the Orin? You know?
Yes.
You know what we're talking about?
Yes. I'm aware of their work. Yes.
Okay. Well, this blew my mind. Turns out they're not bunny people.
No.
No.
They're that kind of people. Mouse ears and
cat
other
ears,
kind of
bear ears, mouse ears, bat ears, even penguin wings on, I don't know, their heads. What? Why did no one tell me this?
We just thought we'd just lead you along.
Did we know this?
Giggle at you. It's not really been talked about because mainly if you look at all of the sort of released stuff, you envision that purple-haired Orin with bunny ears. I mean, if you look on the official sites everywhere and so on. But this is like, I got that from, it's about, if you look at the What is WildStar, like this has been around for ages actually. If you look at What is WildStar, 1 minute 17, you will see that figure there with the bunny ears. So yeah, we've known about this for a while. It's just I think most people have the image of the Orin as being with the bunny ears. I think that's.
So does this mean we can't call them Bunny Girl Race anymore? Are we not allowed? No.
They're kind of like the Orin, a race that was on Arborea, which is where they're from. And
they're officially furries. They're officially furries.
Yes,
they just changed costumes. Yeah, they just changed costumes.
They're
like,
furries.
Yeah.
Yes, that was it. They were hiding to practice their furry lifestyle, and the Dominion came along eventually and started messing with them and wiped out on most of their race. So, yes, they're quite a tragic. Really, they're quite a tragic kind of race. Their story.
I mean, they kind of like most of the images that we did see come out of the race all had the bunny ears, so it's really not that.
Most of them. That's
most of them.
That's been the perception. I think most people's perception is.
What are these? The mouse ears?
Bunny ears. Yes.
These are the mouse ears. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And there's lots of different stuff.
All right. I'm gonna call a really dark aspect of WildStar. The bunny ears are the superior race. Everyone else is looked down upon. Everyone else.
I like the mouse ears.
That's why we don't see them. Everyone else is looked down upon. Bunny ears superior.
We've got a caste system now with bunny ears at the top. It's quite the Orins are quite depressing, really.
Scott Hawks, editor-in-chief over at Zam.com. Go over to Zam.com. Check it out. Get all your news. Double jump over that lower third. Double jump over that lower third. Check it out. Go over to Zam.com and follow Scott on the Twitter at Jarimore. That's Jarimor on the Twitter. You can follow me at Gary Gannon and follow Gamebreaker TV at Gamebreaker TV. Make sure to follow our Facebook page, facebook.com/Gamebreaker TV. Got all kinds of good stuff going up over there. I should start mentioning on this Wednesday, if you guys are watching this Wednesday, I will be down at the Red 5 Studios for Firefall Fest, broadcasting live with the Firefall team. So definitely tune into that. Check it out. All the info is over on Gamebreaker.tv, so that should be a good time. And we do the show live every single Monday at 1 PST. And we'll be back next week for some more Unicorn Duck Shadow Puppets. Have a great week. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time.